Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are having a fantastic September and enjoying the fall weather that seems to be hitting the Carolinas this week. Welcome to our September company update. Today we have some exciting pieces for you. It's a little bit different than we normally do, but we thought that with some of the changing things that are happening, we should really hit on some key components, and our market update will be back next month. So today we are going to have special guest Kevin Brady, who is an attorney with Guest & Brady, who's one of our preferred attorneys, talking to us in a dialogue with me regarding what we're seeing on closings and things to be watching for as you are working on transactions. We are also going to give you some updates on some exciting activities happening around KV Core. We're going to talk to you a little bit about our new series that is coming up that is starting on Mondays, October 2nd. We are going to go into some details about all the trainings and educations coming up, our risk management summit on October 23rd. And we also have a special guest, Jared James and Linda Yacoub, talking about FyrstUp, an app we want you guys to consider and then vote on after the conversation relative to whether you think it would be useful in your business today with buyers and sellers. So as we get started, I'm going to share my screen, and as people are joining, I'm going to give a few updates, and then I will share these again at the end of the session. But as we get started, I want to remind you that if you have not already attended a KV Core session, upcoming sessions are happening in your area. So tomorrow, September 21st, 9:30 to 12 at the Coastal Carolina Association of Realtors, we're hosting Myrtle Beach, Pawleys Island, and Georgetown for the KV Core launch there live. Anna will be there live and in person, and she also is scheduling one-on-one sessions. I've put a link here to a QR code to get on her calendar for a 30-minute personal session with her on KV Core after you've attended a session. This is not in lieu of a session, but this is after you've attended, so she can help you get up to speed on what you need to know on your level of your site or with your team. Waynesville and Asheville and Hendersonville, we will be in your area next week on September 25th and 26th. So make sure that you note that we have a session on Monday, 9:30 to 12, and on Tuesday, 9:30 to 12. So those two sessions are in our Waynesville and Asheville offices. I have it up on the screen. And then last but not least, we have Greenville, Spartanburg, and Anderson, and that's going to be from 1 to 3:30 on both days, October 11th and October 12th, in our Greenville office. So please make sure, if you have not already, that you are signed up and attending. Your company admins have put out information relative to this. So please get going with KV Core. There's some incredible tools. I'll give you a hint. My favorite one is Core Presents. Offers a ton of content. Next up, we've had this Southeast region. It is for Remarks Corporate. They have hired Mara Neal to come in and talk about the Mastering the Low Inventory Market, a Nordstrom's-inspired business revolution with Mara Neal. So the sessions in Myrtle Beach and Greenville that I shared with you last month have already happened, but the next one is in Charlotte on October 10th. And you can register for that by going to this link. It is at the Hyatt Centric Charlotte South Park from 9 to 12. It is a free event, so I definitely encourage you to attend that event. Risk Management Summit. Your admins have been sending you emails and messages, and I think the last one we got in Valentine was this morning as a reminder. October 23rd, we are having our E&O attorney. We are having North Carolina and South Carolina state officials and general counsels in real estate attend these sessions. It is imperative, even if you've already attended a session, if you're licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina, you need to attend both. If you're only licensed in one state, you need to attend the session that is scheduled here. 9:30 to 11:30 is South Carolina, and North Carolina starts at 1:30 and goes to 3:30. There is a ton of content that you need to know as you're practicing real estate. I know we all have been practicing for years, but it never hurts to get educated and know what's happening in your state and within your industry. So we also have been talking a lot about adding value and what you need to do from a buyer agent standpoint and a value add as a realtor, and making sure you know how to communicate that message and deliver it. So Laurie Knutson and I, and Kourosh will be a special guest occasionally, are going to start doing every Monday, starting on October 2nd, 9 to 9:30. So a very quick piece, Rise, Shine, and Align. This QR code gets you a link to put it on your calendar for every Monday. So if you'd like to attend these sessions, you also have it in your email from your admins, but please go ahead and get this going. What are we going to be talking about in those sessions? Just what I shared with you guys at our last company update. And then we had a meeting a week ago, Monday. This information is important for you guys to learn the value proposition and make sure you're communicating it well as getting your buyer agency information up front. If you're not doing that, you're doing yourself and your client a disservice. So please make sure you're thinking about strategies and how to do that. And Laurie and I will be working on helping you do that every Monday. Other events that we have coming up, we have a mastermind class in our Ballantyne office on October 9th, talking about why buyer agents are necessary, lead conversion and prospecting with KV Core. This is a bonus event hosted by corporate that's going to be, actually not by corporate, this is the one by Sandy McAlpine. It's going to talk about how to convert leads, whether you're on KV Core or not. Great session. She and her team do a fabulous job. Our company update is on the 25th of October next month, and then we will do our annual tax strategies webinar on 10/30. So October 30th for that. So these are things to mark your calendar. And if you are not getting the Remax executive newsletter on the first of every month, please reach out to Jason Atry and make sure you're added or your admin, because there's tons of pertinent information. This is all there, but we want to make sure you're attending the sessions because we put a lot of time and thought into it and want to make sure that you're getting the best value from us as Remax executive. So next up, I want to highlight Kevin Brady, who is one of the partners with Guest and Brady, who's one of our preferred groups out of South Carolina, but they also have a North Carolina attorney, Madison Turner, who does a fantastic job. And she actually will travel to our offices as well as is hosted in our Indian Land office, which is a team office. So if you have closings and you have questions, Madison has been a tremendous resource to a number of our agents as I've talked to them regarding problems and issues with closings. So she is here and will be able to answer your questions. If you have things, reach out to her. But today I'm going to interview Kevin Brady, and we are going to talk about what is happening in the marketplace and what we can do to do the best for our clients once we get them under contract. Kevin, welcome today. We thank you for being our partner and thank you for agreeing to join me today.
Hey, Tiffany, I appreciate y'all letting us come on here and get to talk a little bit and get to familiarize yourself with Guest and Brady and what value we can add to all of you and your agents. So, you know, we've enjoyed the partnership so far, and you know, being available and to all of y'all is just one of the value adds that we think we can bring. So we appreciate y'all having us here.
Thank you so much for being here. And we talked a little bit before we hopped on here in the last couple of days. And what I'm seeing is some fraud issues that are happening across our states relative to closings and wire fraud, as well as even defrauding who someone is in terms of impersonations. What have you seen in South Carolina, and what would you say our agents to be looking out for?
Yeah, so we see a lot of wire fraud here, and you know, most of the time, well, one of the things that we do to combat wire fraud is, one, we don't email wiring instructions to our buyers or clients. We have a portal that we use that's a secured login portal. So when your buyers sign up with us, they get into this portal, and it's a secured location that they go to, and in that location we have our wiring instructions. Now, if they call us on the phone, they're having problems, they don't use electronics portals, we will reach out and talk to them specifically with those wiring instructions. But we don't, as a general rule, email wiring instructions out to clients. The wire fraud and email fraud is something I wish I really didn't understand, but just doing this job, and I've had to really learn how they do this. And the problem is it's very simple, right? You can go online and download a free app, and you can open that app. It's a DNS app that you can search our website, guestbrady.com. And that app will sit there and monitor all the email traffic that comes in and out of our guestbrady.com email server. And it looks for, they know we're a real estate firm. So they see that Jack Gowan is a real estate with you and with Remax, and so they know automatically he's a listing selling agent. They know the email from Guest Brady is coming from us. They know that the third party or the lender, Executive Loans is the lender. They see John Smith at gmail.com and they know they got a 50-50 shot that that's a buyer or seller on a transaction. So they go and they target that Gmail account and they go to hack that account. And when they get into one of those, now they sit there and they watch and they can see that. So they will monitor and they know when that closing time is getting close, and then they will send out wire instructions and say, hey, we're from the law firm or we're from the lender. Your cash to close is going to be $7,236, and we need you to go wire this right now so we don't delay closing. And we've had people, unfortunately, who have fallen victim to that. We had a lady late last year that wired $76,000 to somebody in Neverland, and that exact scheme that I just described is exactly how that happened. And they got an email from their lender several days before closing, and they were anticipating getting an email with that cash to close proceeds from that lender. And that hacker knew that, send it. She ran out and she sent her life savings and what she was putting down on that house to a hacker and lost that money. We've had that in 2 other occasions. Fortunately, it was about $7,000 each. So these things are happening. They're real. Wiring instructions. They always need to call our office or your settlement agent's office and verify those independently, because these hackers, they only have to be right once, right? And they get a win spell. So
that is so true. We have seen some wire fraud issues on our end as well. And I would just implore every agent out there, each client is starting fresh. They don't buy and sell real estate every day, and they're not in the business like you and I and Kevin are. So you need to be reminding them multiple times. One time is not enough. It is every time. And if you're in South Carolina, there's a wire fraud disclosure that you should be adding to your buyer and seller package. That is a South Carolina form. In North Carolina, you need to be reminding them in your emails and in every communication that it is part of our contracts and our agreements for buyers and for listings in North Carolina. This, I can't stress enough. When someone loses money, it's a lawsuit for everyone, and we immediately need to take action. And so some of the things that you need to know, and we had this training last year and we can go back to it, but the FBI says you should go straight to their IC3 complaint piece, file it online. You should call their field office in your area and ask for the cyber squad, and you should immediately be contacting the bank. And it's not enough just to file a complaint with the bank. Your client needs to be getting the head of security on the phone and having conversations, because every second counts when you're dealing with wire fraud. So I appreciate Kevin sharing that. Kevin, when you see other things happening or going awry on the closing side of things, what are some of the top things that you see that agents could be aware of so that they make sure that they have their own process buttoned up?
Sure. One of the things that we see or are seeing more and more is people do everything from their cell phones these days. And speaking of wires, a lot of our buyers will try to send their wire proceeds from their phone app, from their banking phone app. And those are not wires, those are ACHs. And those ACHs don't show up for days. And so we had a situation about 3 weeks ago where a lady went into the bank and the teller just told her wrong. Yeah, she was trying to send a wire. She actually had our wiring instructions with her, and the bank teller said, "Oh, you don't need to do that and spend the money. You can do it free on your app," right? And so she walked out and sent $41,000 via an ACH to us. That was on a Thursday afternoon, and she had a 2 o'clock Friday afternoon closing. The ACH, that $41,000, had not even been presented to our bank Friday afternoon. It didn't show up for presentation as an ACH until Monday morning. So needless to say, unfortunately, they weren't allowed to close. And yeah, that was a simple mistake. She could have, if she would have stood her ground and said, no, I have to send this via wire at the bank, that would have happened. Um, we get that a lot, right? Because they're being told that they can send these from their apps. And you just need to let your clients know that if they're trying to send a wire from their app, they can't. That's going to be an ACH. We're not allowed to accept ACH. We have ACH blocks on our trust accounts. Um, a wire, when it comes into the bank, into my trust account, it's immediately available funds, right? And the person who sends that money doesn't have the ability to retract that wire. An ACH, legally, technically, that'd be difficult, but that person sending that ACH has up to a year to retract that ACH. So if they disputed that, they could get with their bank, and weeks later, a month later, they could retract that ACH. And that's the main reason we're not allowed to take those. So it's unfortunate, and it's just the rules that we have to live by. But just make sure they're not sending a wire off of their mobile app, that they're actually going into the bank, or they're talking to their banker on the phone and sending that via an actual wire. The other thing that relates to closing proceeds is certified checks. We very rarely take certified checks. And prime example is there's as much fraud going around in certified checks as there are in wire fraud. And a lot of times you deal with melloways, people living in other states that are buying properties. They will send certified funds. There was a local firm here that accepted a certified check for around $90,000. The proceeds were only supposed to be about 60 some odd $1,000, and they deposited that check. They funded off of that check, and then found out, I guess the day later, that that check was actually a fraudulent certified check, and that creates all kinds of problems. So that's one of the main reasons that we don't allow or accept certified checks. Our bar rules don't allow that. They make me as the attorney personally responsible for that check if it's a certified check, if it's over $5,000. So if it's over $5,000 and I take a certified fraudulent check, I'm responsible for replacing those funds within 48 hours, or I have consequences to my bar license. So that's the reason you get these rules from the attorneys' offices that y'all deal with, is because there's bar implications by taking these funds, not to mention just the practical problem that your clients deal with when this kind of fraud takes place. So, accepting proceeds for closings is a big deal, and really at the end of the day, it needs to be via wire, and it needs to be independently verified.
That is good information, Kevin. The other thing we talked about that I was kind of surprised about, because I've seen land deals where someone's impersonating someone as an issue that has been caught pretty quickly, but you said it's happening even on the back end when you're doing the title searches. Tell me a little bit about the title searches and the importance of going back a little bit instead of just tacking on to the last policy.
Sure. So I did a lot of investment closings back in from 2005 until, we still do them today. We don't do as many of them as we used to, but it was about 90% of my practice for about 12 to 15 years. And one of the things that we do routinely is foreclosure purchases from foreclosure sales. And back in 2008, 2009, when the foreclosure market really heated up and they were doing tons of foreclosures, the foreclosures that were coming through were only going, the lenders were only searching from their lender policy up. There was back from probably, I don't know, pre-2000 till the crash of the market in 07, 08. As some of y'all know that have been in this business a long time, if you could breathe, they were giving loans and we were closing deals, right, as fast and as furious as you could. And the attorneys that were doing those things were doing them very quickly, and the searches weren't being reviewed. And there are a lot of title issues back there in those back chains. And so it has always been my standard practice to do a full search on properties since we started. And so we're doing a full 30 to 40 year search on every contract that comes in. We have not been tacking. And so we find a lot of problems in the back chain. And a lot of them could be simple as a clerical error at the clerk's office. I had a file where back in the 30s, a gentleman deeded to his wife a piece of their home as a joint tenant rider survivorship deed to his wife. Well, after she passed away, the clerk's office, when they recorded that deed, they recorded it as a life estate, which wasn't true. And so she passed away first. The gentleman then passed away later. It went through his estate. His heirs got it. They went out. They deeded this thing. It went through about 5 different purchases after that time. They got here, and when we did that full search, we realized that nobody had ever dealt with the wife's half interest in that property. Right? They saw that it was a life estate in the records index, but they never actually looked at the deed. And so that right there, when that first attorney, such as us, finds that, that's a problem. And now your seller has a piece of property that only has a half interest ownership in it. And so, just like that, the seller in that transaction had a title search. And the only way to really go back and clean that up is through a quiet title action, because you can imagine at that point, you're dealing with great grandkids who have now interest in that estate. So, there's all kinds of reasons for making sure that you're going back and look at those full titles, getting that 40-year search. So, claims happen. That's why we sell title insurance. It's not often, but when they do happen, it's like any other insurance. It's expensive until you need it. And when you need it, you're glad you got it. So it's no different.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because we have definitely had our share of title issues amongst agents with the number of transactions we do with Remax Executive. And sometimes our agents don't realize why it's important to have an enhanced policy or to work with a preferred attorney, because it's getting those pieces that's really the premium offering to your clients, whether they're buyers or sellers. The other piece that we talked about, Kevin, was getting identification up front. There's been a lot of land fraud lately where someone comes to us and says, "Hi, I'm Mr. Seller." And even if they provide identification, it's not Mr. Seller. So we need to be careful as we're out there working day to day to make sure that we are hitting the right points and asking the right questions. And if you don't know someone, I would definitely be asking for driver's license verification that's unexpired from the people you're working with. It's important to do that, and for your safety as well, having safety protocols. But what Kevin shared with us today, we will make sure as we're putting together a buyer presentation for you guys to have both electronically and hard copy, that we're going to include the wire fraud piece in it and make sure that it's very clear. Kevin, is there anything else you want to add before we hand it over to Kourosh? I really appreciate you being here today, and the information you've shared is pertinent to all of our agents.
Yeah, I think that's about it for today. If y'all have specific questions, I'm always happy to answer them. Y'all, my information's out there. I take phone calls, text, on my cell phone. Madison's available. So anytime y'all have any questions, from today, feel free to reach out to us. So that's why we're here.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us today. And at this time, I know that Kourosh is on the road, so he has found a place to connect with us, and he is going to tee up our next speakers and talk about Jared James and the opportunity with Linda Yacoub that we have with FyrstUp. Kourosh.
Good morning. Thanks, Tiffany. Can you hear me well?
Perfect.
Great. I actually found I'm actually visiting our South Carolina coastal offices this week, and I found a nice coffee bar. It's called the C3 Coffee Bar in Myrtle Beach. So coming to you this morning from Myrtle Beach. But before I introduce our guest speakers, I would like to get everybody's attention on what I think is a really important topic, which is agent communication in a tight inventory market. With a limited inventory and rising interest that we all know, guiding our buyers is more essential today than ever. We all know that we have the hoops that we have to jump through due to the restrictions we have, whether it's from the National Association of Realtor, whether it's MLS, whether it's local boards. There are all sorts of restrictions as far as advertising marketing. We hear that, yes, days on the market is increasing, but I believe most of you would agree that for desirable neighborhoods, properties go under contract very quick. And, we still hear from a lot of you guys that you get frustrated when you're working with buyers when multiple offer situation. A lot of you use our internal messaging board that is known as Wolf Connect. It's good to see that even some of the new brokers that join our company in the first few days of them joining Remax Executive, they figure out how to use that internal messaging to market their properties and share their needs. But there's no way for us to retrieve that old communication through that platform. So imagine if you could have a conversation with someone that you might be on the fence and you're talking to about potentially listing their property. And if you could show them that our firm has several buyers interested in that specific neighborhood or with that parameter, you can use a system to show the amount of interest and help the seller get the seller over the fence, and also help them to test the market without really going through the limitations of coming soon. I know some of you have that in your market, some of you don't, without really accruing any days on MLS. With that, I'd like to introduce our guest speakers. Jared James, coach, trainer. I mean, Jared has so many titles: author, business owner, and Linda Yacoub, CEO of FyrstUp. Linda and James have invested in a new platform that I think Tiffany and I looked at it. We think it's going to be a game changer, and you guys are going to find it very useful for our business. With that, Linda, James, welcome to our company update. We're really excited to learn more about your platform.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. So it's super funny to say this right now, and I'm really glad I'm saying this. Jared's having technical issues, which he never has technical issues, so it's kind of funny. But he's going to be jumping on in a little bit. So I apologize. Just real quick, I just want to make sure I have access to share my screen on my phone. Okay, so because I wasn't able to test that. And I'm just going to send Jared the link one more time. There. Sorry. But real quick, my name, like was mentioned, my name is Linda Yacoub, and great job on pronouncing my last name. That usually is always butchered. But Linda Yacoub, I'm the CEO of FyrstUp. A little bit of background on who I am first before jumping into the app. I'm a single mom of 2 little ones here in California. I've been in the tech space for about 20 years. 16 of those years is specific to real estate. I am not a licensed agent. I've been in the MLS world and real estate world for 16 years, really just implementing technology. And so I was the MLS exec for Central California, which has about 7,000 agents. And I did that for 10 years. Absolutely loved it. My background there, or my focus there, was not only compliance and rules, but providing tech solutions to agents that are really going to be able to better their business in the industry. And I love the whole streamlining opportunity as well. Great. Jared's here, everyone. So we're good.
I'm here. What's going on, everybody?
Perfect. And so I did that and then shifted from the MLS over to really just focusing on now FyrstUp. And kind of like what the intro is about, FyrstUp really allows us to streamline the way that data is communicated within your office in the most compliant way. So complying with clear cooperation, but also allowing your clients to see the activity in your office and allowing your peers to know what's coming to market, as well as what your buyers are wanting. And we do that traditionally right now, probably on a whiteboard, possibly in a private Facebook group, maybe even Excel spreadsheet. This just allows us to foster communication instantly amongst everyone within your brand and your organization. And so I am going to do a quick demo. The demo itself is not more than 2 minutes. One thing about the product, and I have to register again to jump in here. So let me do this.
Well, you register,
Sorry,
I'll say
Jared.
everybody,
Yeah.
because I obviously was tech deficient trying to get this link to work.
Oh, I told them, don't worry.
Oh yeah, completely. Guys, you can hear me? Wave if you can hear me, guys. You guys can hear me? Awesome. Awesome. The rest of you, I assume that no matter what I say, you're just not going to wave. But good morning, guys. Psyched to be here with you. Psyched to kind of tell you about this opportunity, and psyched that I made it. I'm straight off a red eye. Love being here, and hopefully we get to do it with you guys in person at some point as well. But we were excited about getting the chance to kind of show you guys what this is, and then really kind of show you how it's actually applicable, what you do with it. Because let's face it, you know, we live in a world where you guys have plenty of tech tools, but it doesn't mean they're all working. So, Linda, you got what you need now?
Yep, I got it.
Awesome.
Before diving in real quick, I want to make sure everyone knows that the concept of FyrstUp actually came from a top producing agent. So it's really neat when a tool is designed and developed based on an agent want and needs, like their pain points, and then it's built and implemented. So it came from a top producing agent that was really struggling on communicating the best to her ability on properties coming to market, as well as marketing her client's property to the best of her ability. And we did a ton of user testing with agents as well. So everything you see, you hear, and that I'm about to show you really is from your guys' perspective. So when you first log into the app, it's a one-time login, always logged in, which is actually very important to understand. So you're not constantly looking for credentials. You're going to be in there unless there happens to be a massive push to the application. It's a one-time login. When you're looking at the actual app, everything you see here is what you would see on a whiteboard. It's what we call popular fields. So these are all properties that are about to come to market within your office. And then we're able to list it here. You could sort it based on ascending, descending, the newest, all that fun stuff too. But high profile. So you're going to get the price, the address, bedroom, bathroom, square footage. On the right-hand side, if it's in blue, it means it has yet to hit the MLS. So 5 days until it goes into the MLS is the first one. And then it just counts down. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When the second one that you see here on the screen is in green, this actually was, it's a new feature that we've added into the product, and it allows agents to see, well, what's on the MLS, but still in my office. There is no simple way to get that data off the MLS. And so we allow your listing to stay on the application for 5 days before it falls. And the sweet thing about this is that we continue to do all the heavy lifting, the algorithm, the matching, even while it's on the MLS, but it's all internal here on the FyrstUp app. By the way, while I'm walking through this, there might be several questions. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Jared will probably take a look at those, or we'll make sure to go back and answer those. I'm going to go ahead and jump into one of these listings. So real quick, when it says there's matches to a listing, that's because that listing happens to be my listing. The great thing about FyrstUp, and we took this idea from the MLS, is we've not only incorporated, buyer matches to listing, but listing to buyers, which everyone knows is reverse prospecting. So it's the opposite of looking for listings, which is the intent of the MLS. We're looking for buyers instead. So we do both sides. When you pull up your listings, this one happens to be mine. It's just going to be popular data, like I mentioned, but you're also going to be able to see the property pinned on the map here. Scrolling down, if there's any additional properties or notes on this particular listing, you'll see underneath notes. So an example could be like, seller is motivated, hardwood floors, anything that you want to add onto here so you know, so your peers can know. And then these are my matches that pertain to this particular listing. This is a test account, so this is why you see a lot of demo and test and admin fields. But what it's doing here is it's letting me know that I have matches, buyers that are interested in this property. So where it says agent FyrstUp, for instance, the first one, it would say the actual agent's name. So in this case, it would say Jared James, and it had Jared's information there. So I could easily just text him, or I could actually email or call him directly as well. Off to the right-hand side, that's what we call a buyer ID. This is not uncommon for you guys. You see this already in the MLS when there is buyer matches to properties. This is how Jared is able to distinguish what buyer match pertains to property. So this is just your profile page. And then the next screen is buyers. Now I want you guys to, I want to make a note here. This is not replacing your CRM. This is alongside your CRM. Think of FyrstUp not only as a whiteboard, but also of a hot sheet. So you have buyers that are actively looking to purchase homes today, in the next few weeks, in the next month. This is what you're going to want to put them on. So when you're looking at buyers here, these buyers are only for your eyes. No one else gets to see them, not even your admin or broker. So all the data in here is exclusive to you. You'll notice that I have 4 buyers in here, and 3 of them have notifications, meaning that there are matches to these buyer wants and needs. Quickly, I'm just going to show you. This is high level information, just high basic information on here. So first and last name. I could add an email address or phone number. There is no need to, because none of this is going to your consumer, meaning it's not going to your sellers or your buyers. It's only staying within the app and only within your office. So I just have first and last name. I listed that she is a referral, and I've created a search for her. Just to show you real quick, and not necessarily creating one for you, but this is how creating a search would be. You would title the search. This could be as simple as vacation home, and then go ahead and put in what your buyer is looking for. When you hit create search, sorry, let's go ahead and I'll just put Fresno for now. It's just going to sit in the algorithm and wait until properties actually match her search criteria. When they are matched, you'll get a notification, very much like this, and then this will just take you to the property profile, which you saw earlier. The last screen on here, there's not that many screens. The last screen on here is just adding a listing. This is very basic. We're not going to add one right now, but when we do enter one, everything is based off Google address. You type it in, it autofills. The most important thing on here is really your go live date. You're going to select when the property is estimated to go live. This could change. You could always go in here and edit this. Once you select it and all the data is put in, you're going to hit save. Once you hit save, everyone gets a push notification that goes out. And this is everyone within your markets, within your offices, instantly notifying them of a new property that just hit the whiteboard. This is it when it comes to FyrstUp. The great thing about FyrstUp, not only is it simple, but it literally does what it's supposed to do, and that's it, which is notify agents of properties coming to market and being that virtual whiteboard, as well as buyer matching. Now, I saw there might have been a question or two, Jared, on there.
I've got questions, and I've got direct questions that were sent to me.
Okay.
Can you come off of the screen share for a second, because I want to kind of give everybody, because I'm getting the same questions directed at me over and over again. And so I want to make this very clear. How many of you right now that can actually, that I can see you, how many of you have been in the industry longer than 5 years? Okay, how many of you longer than 10 years? How many of you remember when you used to do Monday morning meetings and you would sit around the office whiteboard and you would talk about what's coming on market and who's got whatever? How many of you remember those days when that's what you would do? And you had caravans and you'd go out to the properties, and the good old days, right? Pre-COVID, when people actually came into the office, had to get dressed, knew each other, talked, all of that stuff. And so to answer the question that people had, because I'm getting a lot of direct messages, and you guys keep asking about compliance, and you keep asking about, the MLS and all this kind of stuff. I want you for a second to think about those days when you would sit around the whiteboard and you'd have those Monday morning meetings, and you would talk about, because there's a time between when you would go and you would sign the listing and when it would hit the MLS. And because of things like clear cooperation, in many places, you can't take that listing and you can't promote it to the public. But what you are allowed to do is you are allowed to promote it and talk about it within brokerage. And so there's a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. And then when we're done with this, I'm going to go into actual real world use of how this actually works for you guys. What we're doing is we're taking that old whiteboard concept where you would all see what's coming on from the people in your office, and you could actually bring it to your attention of your buyer, whoever it was, before it actually hit the market. And there was a real advantage to that, especially in a low inventory market. There's a real advantage to that. And so this is essentially doing that, where it's taking that and it's digitizing it, and you're being notified every time a listing's coming on before the general public, but it's just you within your office. You're also putting in your buyer's criteria, and it's matching. And now what's happening is, because I heard you guys, one of your messages asked me about clients and all that kind of stuff. None of the client info is being shared. This is all agent to agent. So when a buyer criteria matches, and it lets the listing agent know, hey, you got 4 matches, and it lists out, you know, you got these 4 matches. It's all agent to agent. There's no conversation with the consumer. There's no agent seeing your other person's. It's all agent to agent. Okay. And so there's 2 things that are happening. Number one, in a low inventory market, you guys are being made aware of properties that are available in a completely compliant manner that you can let your buyers know about within brokerage before the general public. And number 2, there's a communication part of this, where you guys are talking back and forth to each other about what's coming on, or I've got this for this, or and there's this activity that's happening that it's not 100% of the time going to sell it free, but it's going to do it more often than not. And you're also going to have that communication to know what's happening. You're going to have activity for your buyers that they wouldn't have had otherwise, but you're really just digitizing that process. Linda, I want you to talk about, because I got a few questions here where people sent directly to me. And it's the typical thing you always hear when you're in real estate, right? They want to know about compliance. And I wrote back a couple of you, and I said, Linda actually ran an MLS. So like, she knows compliance. She knows how this works. Do you want to talk to them a little bit about compliance?
Yes, yeah, I could talk about compliance on a national level. So compliance with clear cooperation, it specifically says that you cannot pre-market your listing to the public. And so when you dive deep into that a little bit, NAR explains who the public is, right? The public really is individuals that are outside of your brokerage. Everyone knows that when they hang their license underneath the broker, and it could be different. So please correct me, Tiffany, if this is incorrect in your markets. And you hang your license underneath that particular broker and you take on a listing, you are representing that broker in that transaction of that specific listing. However, the listing is ultimately owned by the broker you're hanging your license under. So therefore, we're able to, okay, perfect, thank you. We're able to actually communicate that listing amongst your peers because it's hung underneath the same broker's license, if that makes sense. The public is outside of those 4 walls. The public is the other broker or brand down the street, or it could be a consumer down the street or your neighbor. So we're not doing any of that. And that's what's very unique about FyrstUp. The communication, it really is what you guys do today. And we're just streamlining that just within an app that stays amongst your brokerage within your guys' brand. Yeah. If that answers it. Okay.
And especially, I'll get into this in a minute here, but especially, I don't have to tell you guys, the market's not shifting, it's shifted. And, competition is high. I was talking to an audience, actually a Remax audience yesterday, and I told them that 68% of consumers bought or sold a home last year with an agent who had done between 0 and 2 transactions in the last 12 months. Now, think about that. I said that and I saw people's faces just go like, what? Like, how is that possible, right? And so we are in a market right now where you need every advantage you can get, and you need to be first. That's why it's called FyrstUp, right? And so this is going to allow you to do that. But one of the things that I'm not sure if you said this or not, Linda, but I love it when you talk about this. This tool is so simple. Like I don't know about you guys, but I'm so tired of going to events where it's 90 apps in 90 minutes. You're not going to learn a thing, right? And obviously that's one extreme. But technology, the role of technology is to free us up to actually do the things we should have been doing all along. And what I love about this is the simplicity. Like, Linda, what is the average time that someone spends on the app when they go in? So they get notified they've got a buyer, their new listing came up. What's the average time?
Well, when we did it, I mentioned earlier, we did a lot of testing with agents that were actively using it, and we wanted to eliminate the time spent, which is super interesting. A lot of applications want agents on it. We actually don't want you on the app more than 60 seconds at most. So the average agent that's on there that is entering data or admins entering data and getting notifications are in and out within a 45 to 50 second time frame. So the app, like Jared mentioned, is super simple, but very efficient and very effective in the business.
I had other questions that came in. People asked how much information is needed to enter a listing, how much information is needed for entering a buyer. I'll let you handle that, but I want to make sure that you guys understand that we are taking minimal information, because this is not a replacement to the MLS. This is nothing like that. It's supposed to start to foster communication. And so, for example, when I teach agents how to use a listing to create business or to generate buyers or sellers, we tell them not to put in things that are disqualifying factors, things like price. Because if you go and market a listing and someone sees the price, they like it, but then they see the price and go, that's not my price range. Well, then you never hear from them. So there's no communication, there's no opportunity. Now, this is a little different. We are going to have price and such, but we're putting as little information as possible to start to foster communication amongst you guys, so you can start talking and saying, hey, that buyer you've got, whatever, what do you have this one? Do you have whatever? And when communication starts fostering, when conversations start happening, more transactions start to happen. So Linda, do you want to talk a little bit about what information is needed to enter a list? What information is needed to enter a buyer?
Correct. Yeah. So when Jared was mentioning back in the day when everyone was in an office huddle, office meeting, think of it that way. When you're looking at a whiteboard, you're literally only putting in popular fields. So 123 Main Street, bedroom, bathroom, square footage, price. And that's it. Maybe when it goes live on the market. That's all the data we want on here. Now, when you're plugging in an office meeting, oh, I have a buyer looking for a 4.2, in North Fresno. Literally, that's the same exact thing. You're putting a 4.2, their price range, and what location. And we're keeping it very basic. We don't want the app to replace collaboration. We want you guys to really foster the culture of collaboration and communicating within your office. We do allow the ability to, like I showed, to have you guys text agents, call them directly, or email them directly. But we're doing very basic, minimal information, very high level. Maybe at most you're looking at 6 fields. We've had several agents and brokers ask for more data fields. The more data fields we add on, the less user engagement we're going to get. And what we're trying to do is really just generate and spark conversation and let it go from there. So very basic popular fields. Like I said, you shouldn't spend more than, when entering a listing, not more than 45 seconds on there entering it. So it's not like your MLS where you have hundreds of fields. I've been there and I've done that. And it's not that at all whatsoever.
Nice. I'm going to allow more questions, but I want to touch on a couple of things with you guys as far as like usefulness. Like I said, when you look at all those sessions out there, 90 apps in 90 minutes, I think every one of us, if I were to ask you, hey, were you ever given a tool or given an app or whatever that you never used? I think every one of you right now, if you were to open up your phone, how many pages could you scroll through with apps that you haven't used in the last 30 days? And I think a lot of you, if you do that, as soon as we get off of here, that you're going to be like, holy crap, like I've got 9 pages of apps here that I never use. And so I'm fully aware of that. It's one of the reasons why I love what Linda said. When you start tracking app usage on things like Instagram and these other things, what they're looking for is length of time. It's like people are on here 3.5 hours a day. This is the exact opposite. This is not to get in the way of what you're doing as a business. This is to foster what you're doing as a business, and it's to improve it, and it's to give you a direct advantage in the market that we're in right now, where, let's face it, guys, unless you are unlike anywhere else in the world, there's inventory issues, and you need every advantage that you can get. And not only every advantage you get, you need every advantage that you can communicate to a buyer or a seller when you're dealing with them of something that you have that other people aren't using in your area, right? Especially when it's quick and easy. And again, I'm going to say one more time, one of the things I love about this is just simplicity. I mean, you jump on here. I don't care if you're completely tech, non-savvy, whatever. If you get on here for 15 seconds, it makes sense to you. And so we're in a market right now where, as I said, 68% of consumers did a transaction with someone who did between 0 and 2 transactions in the last year. We're in a market where 91% of agents right now have never operated in a market with an over 4.5% interest rate or 45 days on market. We're in an interesting market right now. We're in a pros market. And when we talk about this being a pros market, part of being a pro is having the right equipment. You would never expect a football player to go out there, no matter how talented they are, and not put a helmet on. They'd be in a lot of trouble. And so this is one of those things that you wear that makes you better at what you're going to do every day. And more importantly, the idea that you can meet with a buyer and be able to communicate to that buyer that, hey, we're not like everybody else. Like, I know, hey, you think there's a million options. You've talked to 12 agents. Here's a direct advantage that you have by working with us, and doesn't cost you any more, doesn't whatever. But this is what we're doing to actually make this experience better for you. When you're able to go to a seller and you're able to say, hey, we're going to bring even more attention to your listing. We're going to try to get you the highest price in the shortest amount of time. And you're able to communicate these things back and forth. When you, as an actual agent in your office, is now able to reverse prospect, you throw up that listing 4 days before it's going to hit the MLS, and all of a sudden it's populating for you and showing you that there's 5 people in your office that have matching buyers. And now you're making those phone calls, and now you know who to contact and exactly what to do. The simplicity of that and just how narrow that is on exactly what you need to do is so effective that we've seen with other places. We're hoping we get the chance to do it with you guys. But we'd love to hear what questions you guys have, if any, about what you saw there. Any questions from you?
Yeah. Paula asked, how much information are we able to share with our buyers before the home officially comes to the market? That's actually a great question. And I want to be careful about this because the rule specifically pertains to those that are listing the property. So it really is the listing agent. It's not the buyer's agent. So, and I say this carefully because you can't take the app and show your buyer property. We can't do that. But sorry about that. However, you could absolutely discuss with your buyer properties that are coming to market. Marketing rules pertain to the listing agent. They're not allowed to pre-market. But when you're saying, great, hey, I was just notified that there is a property coming to market, you could share that information to your buyer. Don't pass the FyrstUp app over or don't show them that. But you actually could share that information to your buyer. So rules could get really funky and kind of muddy sometimes, but that rule really pertains to the listing agent on that. There's other rules out there in the MLS that says that you can't market so-and-so's listing without their consent, all of that too. So this is why I say you could just verbally talk about it. But I don't know your MLS rules front to back, but that's how the NAR rule reads. Tiffany, you have answered other ones. Okay, go.
Okay. I was just going to remind everyone that if you're in
Perfect.
Canopy, firm exclusive kicks in, and if you're publicly marketing it within 1 business day, it has to hit the MLS. Linda and I were chatting, and you can actually put a property into the FyrstUp app that doesn't have an address on it. They could just have the city and details. And so you're not sharing all the information, but you could have conversations around it to warm up the property without communicating the address. So there are ways that we can specifically use this within the NAR guidelines and our local association guidelines and MLSs.
Yeah,
And
we've seen brokers.
This is where Linda's a real weapon for you guys too, because she ran an MLS. So it's like she knows how this stuff works. It's you were actually in charge of making sure everybody was compliant and everything was being done right. So like Linda knows these rules in and out as far as how it works.
Yeah. We could do things like subdivisions, right? You could put a subdivision in the address field. The only thing, or even a school district if you wanted to, or a crossroad, right? You could do those. However, the only thing you're losing out on, it won't be pinned onto the map. But other than that, you could definitely use that to your advantage just to start piquing interest and building momentum on what's coming out. And just so you know, I know Jared mentioned some key things like on implementing this into your business. What's great for this on a seller's front is that, and Jared, you might have touched on this already, but this is going to allow your sellers, even if it doesn't close in-house, even if it's just a communication piece, it's going to allow your sellers and your agents to save marketing dollars and get feedback from your peers, get feedback from within the office on if the property is priced properly, if it's market ready. So when it does hit the MLS, it's not going to go stale. And so this is a wonderful tool. And this is what we do when we partner with brokers, is really kind of guide them into how it looks in a listing presentation, how to keep your buyers really attractive in a market like this, how to use it to grow your team. Maybe you have a team that you're wanting to attract some individuals on your team and grow that group. we'll show you how to do that with FyrstUp. And so there's a lot of really fun ways to incorporate this into your business.
Linda, Brian Belcher brought up a couple of great points, and he put it on the chat box. And Brian, if you don't mind, if you can go over that, because I think that's an excellent point in an environment where we need that buyer agency signed right away. We just all talk about buyer agency and how we should do it differently today. I think it was an excellent point you brought up. Can you share that with the group?
Fantastic point.
Hey guys, I just think that if we're at an open house or something and we let people know, whenever you sign a buyer's agency agreement with me and work with me, you're going to have access to firm exclusive listings before they hit the market.
Yeah.
Which is going to give you a great advantage. That's the reason you'd want to work with me, because it's one reason you'd want to work with me, because of the advantage.
Yeah. Especially in a low inventory market, man. I mean, that's what I was trying to communicate to you guys earlier, but I think the red eye took over. But that is 1000% correct. Like, that's what I was trying to communicate earlier. Especially, guys, I don't know if you guys pay attention to everything that's been going on in our industry, and some like rules that are coming down and laws that are coming down, and you're going to see a lot more of a focus on that buyer agency agreement. And you need to be able to communicate some kind of value, beyond I'm going to look hard for you. When you can actually point to a direct tool that you're using that says, hey, we've got, how many agents do you guys have? Like, what is it?
We have about 450.
I've got, when you decide to do this with me, you're going to have 449 other agents working on your behalf. Meaning that every time one of them does something, I'm going to be able to bring you a proprietary list of properties that nobody else in the area has access to. Do you know what a selling point that is? And even just using that word, they're like, wow, you sound smart. Like, you are, they're like, I need proprietary. I'm not 100% sure what that means. I'm going to have to go Google it, but I need that. But it's the absolute truth, right? And then the other part was the listing side. And we didn't get into this, but in addition to, if we end up doing this, I'll be doing some training with you guys. We'll be talking about, different ways to win the listings and such. But part of winning that listing is that we actually do provide you with some materials that you're going to bring to your listing that's going to provide real value on the tool that you're using, and the exposure it's going to bring, and the feedback it's going to bring, and the price it's going to bring, all of that kind of stuff. That, again, this is one of the most important points. Nobody else is walking in talking to the seller about, or talking to the buyer about. Everybody's saying the same thing. I've been around for 30 years. I've been around for 20 years. You might have been terrible for 20 years or 30 years. You might have been great for 20 or 30 years. Who knows? But what sellers and buyers want to see is tangible. Like, what are you giving me in this marketplace that is so close to actually give me an advantage? Because as you know, I mean, I've sold a ton of real estate. You guys, you work at Remax, so I assume you guys sell a lot of houses. Second place makes nothing. And it's usually the smallest things that will get someone to go from third, second, first place, like hiring you to do something, and everyone else they decide not to go with. So everything you can do is an advantage that's simple but really communicates value. You got to take advantage of that. And this is one of those tools that does that for you.
I want to piggyback off of Brian's point, because I've used these firm exclusives at a different firm in the past. And I joined this meeting late, so maybe this was covered already. But to add to what Brian was saying, these firm exclusives only have strength if everybody is doing it.
Yes.
So if only one agent's doing it and everybody else is just listing in the normal channels, it doesn't bolster the strength of the tool. Because where these things appeal, and some of it's how you spin it off to your client, right? And we walk in a room and we kind of know, who we're talking to. But if it's like a mom with 4 kids, it becomes very appealing conversation to have with them when you're basically saying, you're not going to have a lot of showings, right? Because I got this whole market over here that I can tap for you through the strength of Remax. But I've watched this literally go from a planted seed to a full-on flower at a different firm, and seen agents not adopt it. We adopted it very early. And now they're all using it. And it's actually, I see out in the field the strength of that tool from a competitive standpoint. So.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was great wrap up to it. And Jared and Linda, you presented a great case for FyrstUp, and Haley has just posted the poll since we are running out of time on our company update. We really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you guys so much. and we
Thank
will
you.
be in touch, because you guys
Thanks, guys.
provide a ton of education and training around it
Yeah.
as our,
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
thank you guys. And
Thanks, guys. Hopefully we see you in the future.